same time the Earth is having it activated on her. So when they say, you know, were these megalithic sites ever connected to an energy grid in the past that has since eroded over time, or will this be the first time this was ever connected? And they're saying this is the very first time. They have never been activated before, and it was always meant that this would happen at this time to bring in this new dawning era that we are in the middle of now. And the connection between the crop circles and the sites rose to its fullest level on 12-12-12 as the illumination waves started to arrive. Something the planet has never experienced before. These energetic lines are going to create shifts on the Earth where they need to take place. There's pockets of energy on the Earth right now holding dense congestion that really needs to be aligned. And they're saying the soil of the Earth really needs a true regeneration, because this is just so much congestion of chemicals and pollution in the soil of the Earth. And to the Earth, they say we're just like fleas on a dog, and the Earth really just wants to shake most people off if they are not in frequency with the Earth. The flooding that's happening is a lot of cleansing of the soil and removing a lot of the toxins and the pesticides, but without as little damage as possible to masses of people. So they're saying that there will be some people leaving the planet, but these are the people who aren't ready for peace. They aren't ready to move out of drama. They're into the violence and power and control, and not in a small way. These people will be leaving the planet because they don't belong here anymore. They will take a step off the planet and have another experience, but they won't be staying here, and that's what they're saying. That's just how it's supposed to be. So that's how the crop circles and the megalithic sites have to do with this. There's a guy, Greg Braden. Has anyone heard of him? Okay, Greg Braden has been traveling currently around the United States and in the media telling of the scientific proof of the Earth passing through the Photon Belt and the slowing of the Earth's rotation. And at the same time as the slowing of the Earth's rotation, there is an increase in the resonant frequency of the Earth's pulse, which is called the Schumann resonance. And he was making a very big deal about this 20 years ago, or even longer. When the Earth stops its rotation and the resonance frequency reaches 13 cycles per second, we will be at what he's calling 0-point magnetic field, where, if this happens, the Earth will be stopped, and in 2 or 3 days it will start turning again in the opposite direction. This will produce a reversal in the magnetic fields around the Earth and so forth. So this Schumann resonance, I just want to just talk a little bit about that, which is what they're calling the heartbeat of the Earth. It's the electrical frequency. See, before we were talking about the magnetic force field of the Earth, now we're talking about the electrical current on the surface of the Earth. The Schumann resonance is a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low frequency portion of the Earth's electromagnetic field spectrum. And they first started documenting this, Nikola Tesla, actually, in Colorado Springs in 1899, was the first person who became aware that there was an electrical field that could be measured. So in 1899, he was the first one that actually said that the Earth had electrical properties, and that's where he came up with his idea for wireless energy transmission, where he put all those light bulbs in the ground on Pikes Peak. And he estimated, based on his experiments, that the frequency of the Earth was approximately 8 hertz in 1899. But in the 1950s, the researchers confirmed that the resonant frequency of the Earth was actually 7.83, so he was extremely close. And this was a physicist named Winifred Otto Schumann, who predicted it mathematically in 1952. So that's why it was named after him, called the Schumann resonance. And this has been thought to be a constant number, 7.83 cycles per second. It's thought to be so constant that the global military communications actually developed on this frequency. They say that it was that way for thousands of years. It was the same frequency forever. So they just thought that was the frequency of the Earth. It's never changing. This is the electrical circuitry on the surface. Recent reports, however, since 2011, are saying that it's now over 11 cycles per second and climbing. Science doesn't know why or what to make of it. So, believe it or not, the Earth behaves like an enormous electric circuit. The Schumann resonances are quasi-standing electromagnetic waves that exist in the cavity between the Earth's surface and the clouds above it. And it's something that has to be excited. It's not present all the time. It has to be like excited to be observed, which only happens from lightning strikes. Lightning strikes are what excite this, and that's when they measure it. And they say there's about 1,000 lightning storms at any given moment worldwide, and it travels around the Earth, and that's where they're getting this number from. So in the normal mode, the fundamental mode is a standing wave in the Earth ionosphere cavity with a wavelength equal to the circumference of the Earth. The lowest frequency occurs at 7.83, but this frequency can vary, and that comprises up to the upper wall of this. There's a closed cavity where this occurs. Okay. So the basic theory is that lightning discharges are considered to be the primary natural source of this Schumann resonance excitation. Lightning channels behave like huge antennas that radiate electromagnetic energy. They're very weak at large distances from the lightning source, but because of the Earth ionosphere waveguide, it behaves like a resonator at extremely low frequencies and amplifies the spectral signals from lightning at the resonance frequencies. See, I told you this was going to be really science-oriented, but it's still just one class worth. Okay, so just think of 8th graders. This is just one day in their life, 1 hour. All right, so higher temperatures produce more lightning strikes, and lower temperatures depress lightning strikes. And again, I'm giving you the facts so you can try to figure out what they do not know. Why is this Schumann resonance increasing when it has been the same for thousands of years? Lightning discharges occurring anywhere in the world produce electromagnetic pulses that spread away from the source. And there's a formula for this. They take the speed of light, which they estimate at about 300,000 kilometers per second, and one cycle is the circumference of the Earth, as I said, the wavelength, which is about 40,000 kilometers per cycle. This is the fundamental frequency that should be the constant. If you divide 300,000 kilometers per second over the 40,000 kilometers per cycle of the circumference of the Earth, it gives you a number of 7.5 cycles per second. So that's just the fundamental frequency equation. The speed of light divided by the circumference of the Earth gives you the Schumann resonance. Okay, everybody with me? And then the military was like, okay, you know, we can use that to make all our calculations off of. So long as the properties of Earth's electromagnetic cavity remains about the same, these frequencies remain the same. So what is changing it? Why is it increasing suddenly? Just since the 1980s, it has been increasing. Things that could change this frequency are things like the strength and configuration of the Earth's magnetic field, which has been weakening for the past 2,000 years, which my guess is, does that mean there's less resistance with a weakening magnetic field? I don't know. Scientists aren't saying this. That's just what I'm trying to figure out. The composition and properties of the atmosphere could have something to do with it, they're saying. The location and properties of the ionosphere, which is linked to the magnetosphere. Or is it related to the solar sunspot cycle, which solar flares were supposed to have peaked in 2012, and also electromagnetic properties of the Earth. So if you look at the interior of the Earth, you see that there is a differential physical rotation of the solid inner core with respect to the surface of the Earth. It takes about 400 years for the inner core to make a complete revolution inside the Earth, so that its frequency is only one cycle per 400 years. So that can't be what is affecting it. It is more interesting to look at the frequency of currents at the boundary between the solid inner core and the liquid outer core, So they're saying, which the inner core has a radius of about 1,200 kilometers and a circumference of 7,500 kilometers. And I know these numbers are just, you know, it's just so much detail that you really have to be really scientific. But I'm just presenting, there's just no way to get around these numbers. So if you made that into the equation, that would be 7,500 kilometer circumference of the inner core divided by the speed of light, 300,000 kilometers per second, or 1/40th of a second. In other words, the natural frequency of the Earth at the boundary of the inner core is about 40 cycles per second, which is at the upper end of the range of frequencies measured for the Schumann resonances. It goes from 7.8, in other words, it could be 14, 20, 26, 33, 39, and up to 45 hertz. So they're saying if you use the inner core as the reason for its increase, that could be up to 40 cycles per second. So they're saying, therefore, the Schumann resonance frequencies correspond to the range of natural frequencies of the Earth from its surface to the boundary of its solid inner core. They're saying the reason it's changing is something inside the Earth. Okay, but again, as I'm saying, is that the photon belt is electromagnetic, made of light particles vibrating at an increased frequency. Electricity and magnetism are two sides of the same coin. Electromagnetic waves are exactly the same as the speed of light. Light itself is an electromagnetic wave. Did everyone know that? That electromagnetic waves are the speed of light? So again, the photon belt is electromagnetic wave. So for some reason, the Schumann resonance frequency, which has never changed, is increasing. What they predicted during and after the changes of the photon belt before 2012, when they were speculating what effect could this have on the Earth, and they predicted that it would have a collapse of the planet's electrical and magnetic fields, and that all the atoms on the Earth would be changed going into an increased frequency, that it would provide a new energy source, getting people off of the old fossil fuel dependency. They were saying that it would allow the capability for space travel, since photon drive technology is what they say all starships are powered by. And then photon beam powered ships can travel in space. Incredible psychic abilities are reclaimed, telepathy, telekinesis, etc. We will now be living in a different time period where we have different levels of abilities. And what is causing that, they're saying? So, at a cellular level, our bodies are also responding to this electromagnetic pulse. The ancients called this the sacred circuit. The cells receive this pulse from the brain, which receives its pulse from the heart, which receives its pulse from the Earth. The Earth gets this pulse from our solar system, which comes from our galaxy, and ultimately from our entire universe. We all share a pulse, literally, with all of existence. And they have proven this scientifically, that as the Earth's resonance is speeding up, so are things in our body, which I will get into now. So, as I was saying, let me just sum this up. The Earth has a vibrational frequency that is known as the Schumann resonance, that has held steady at 7.83 hertz since at least the turn of the last century, when it was first measured, and the military bases its global communication because they considered it to be constant. Since 1987, which was the year that, with the photon belt, the Earth first started clipping into it for 2 weeks, calling it the harmonic convergence. That is when it first started increasing. The first year that we actually clipped into the photon belt was the first year this harmonic frequency started increasing, so that by 1996 it had actually increased to 9 cycles per second. And in the photon belt, the sun